ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም።
ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ
በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ይቻላል።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና
ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና ባገኘንባቸው የፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን እና የሆስተስ ስልጠናም በምዝገባ ላይ ነን።
ጥያቄና መልስ፣ የክፍል ስራዎች ብሎም ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁ አይነት
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ
በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ።
አድራሻ ከ22 ማዞሪያ ወደ ሾላ ገበያ በሚወስደው መንገድ 150 ሜትር ገባ ብሎ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
So today we are basically concerned about how do you identify where you allocate the resources, what are resources, and what makes them resources. We had this discussion previously when you were talking about advantage, just briefly about it. So we didn't capture much of it, but we will go to the, a mile higher and identify what are these resources and how do you derive competitive advantage out of it. Because it's through the allocation of the resources that you gain competitive advantage. Otherwise, if you have resources and you are not making use of them, then they are as well as useless because they are not going to assist you. That's why we say if two farms have the same kind of resources, but some make use of the resources, others don't. The ones that make use of the resources are the ones who benefit from those resources. And those are the ones that are able to derive competitive advantage that leads now to growth of the farm. So now that's the resource allocation. Maybe we need to know what are resources and what are characteristics of resources. What are capabilities? What are the type of resources? We have physical, we have non-physical, How are resources connected, to competitive advantage? And maybe a little bit about the value chain, although we've already covered that much. We will look at the value chain theory and how you derive value out of that. Of course, we use resources. And then maybe a little bit about how do you measure farm performance? We'll come to that. Because when you talk about competitive advantage, then you talk about growth, then you must for trying to establish if, or competitive edge, it's sustained, can be sustained over a long period of time, But again, it needs a lot of planning, a lot of execution for it to be sustained. Otherwise, it will not, because every time a farm has competitive advantage, other farms in the industry are interested in what that farm is doing that they are not doing. And they always keep on checking, doing their own research, doing benchmarking, doing also what you call industrial espionage. They go to the farms and, they have spies, people who can go and, spy on behalf of the farm and try to see what is this farm is doing that it's making it better than us, and what can we do? And therefore, that's why you find this competitive advantage has to be protected. If it is not protected, then it is not going to last for long. Even in monopoly companies, where you have monopoly, still, they still need to protect. That's why they make it hard for other businesses, to come in. That's why they make it hard for substitutes. Otherwise, if there is substitution, there is imitation, then that competitive advantage ceases, and therefore the resources cease to generate that value. So basically, The resources, the capabilities, we say that are from the environment, you know, and this competitive advantage is gained through acquisition of valuable, rare, non-immutable resources. Therefore, organization must identify and locate those resources where they are and acquire them. That means if a competitor firm has these core competencies, these resources, then a firm can go for joint venture, sorry, to be able to tap into the value from the other firm. They can go for strategic alliances, right? If the resources are owned by the firm itself, then it locks out, or it should lock out other firms from accessing those resources, because that's what is going to maintain the competitive advantage. Otherwise, it may not last long. So basically, it is the role of the managers to make sure that they make use of resources and achieve sustainable competitive advantage. Whether the resources are tangible or non-tangible. Tangible are the non-physical, while tangible are the physical. Intangible are the non-physical, the non-tangible, like maybe knowledge, management, technology, and so forth. That is what brings to that. So there's a lot of studies by Barney. We talked about the works of Barney even the other time, what he calls physical capital, human capital, organizational resource. All these are different resources that the organization needs to protect. And if it doesn't have, then it must go and look for it. And even if it has it, then it must allocate it in the right way, in the right places, in the right courses of action. So even if you have the best management, then the management must work, not just having the best and then they are seated down. If you have the best employees, then they must be allocated duties so that their value can be tapped by the organization. I was talking about tangible resources. These are which cannot be seen. That can be seen, that can be touched or quantified, facilities, equipment, and so forth. And then the intangible resources are the ones that cannot be touched, which are called tangible resources. You know, examples are routines, innovation, brand name, culture, efficiency, effectiveness, and so forth. That's called the soft part of the resources. The tangible is called the hard part of the resources. So both resources are very, very important, and management must make proper use of them. For example, we talk about human resources, knowledge, organizational resources, financial resources, physical resources. If these resources are independent, each one on its own, then they have no value to the firm. Value can only be derived if there is interconnection between these resources. Human resources must combine with physical resources, knowledge, financial resources, and so forth. Even if you have the biggest financial muscle, if you don't link that with the other resources, then there's no value to you. It's just money, it's just capital. So you must get the capital, you combine it with the people, pay them well, maybe train them. You look at the general organizational resources, if it's equipment, link that capital to the equipment, either purchase modern or state-of-the-art equipment, or its technology, purchase it and maintain it so that you can be able to gain that competitive advantage. So these are examples of these resources. Excuse me. For example, employees. Where do you get these resources? Through recruitment, through training, through reward system. You know, recruitment is the process of getting the people into your company. So you need to pick the best. And even if you don't pick the best from the industry because they are expensive, then train them. Have good training programs to be able to uplift those employees. In addition to that, you have to have a good reward and compensation system to keep human resources in place. Otherwise, if you bring them, you make them super resources, you don't pay them well, they are going to leave. Of course, after you spend the money on training them, this is dangerous. The same to management. CEO and top managers, they are human resources, very, very important. The other time we were talking about turnaround management, and we say that they are turnaround professionals in industry. Those are resources. You know? And then, of course, the owners, the board, and so forth. For corporate governance purposes, we'll be looking at this later. Then you have the physical resources, which you've talked about, plant, machinery, locations. We have financial resources, which are basically cash flows, level of debt, credit rating, capital. All these are kind of resources that are very, very important to the organization. We also have knowledge and learning resources. I think I'll change the font here. We have knowledge creation, you have knowledge retention, knowledge sharing, knowledge utilization, which is basically called knowledge management, or KM in business. Very, very important. These resources can be either codified or they can be tacit. The works of Bunny, what we're talking about, the resources and so of this. I'm sure you've come across this. And then you have our general organizational resources, very important. Reputation, corporate brand. The other time we were talking about Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is a corporate brand, and therefore it is a big resource. Therefore, you use that brand to gain competitive advantage and maintain it, make it sustainable. If today Coca-Cola buys another product and then integrates it into the system, even if it is not a very high quality product per se scientifically, then it will pick the corporate brand and it will start selling as a high class product or service. And that is the role of organizational resources in terms of the brand and organizational structure, organizational culture. We have what we call weak culture in an organization and what we have strong culture. Weak culture means people are not together. There's a lot of loose boundaries. Strong culture means people are together, they are intact. If they are intact, it's not easy to break those barriers. And remember, culture can be shared, can be passed from one generation to the other. That's why we find organizations that tend to be very much efficient over generations, they are like that. Organizations that tend to be customer oriented, because this organizational culture is their core competence, and it puts people on the way to be able to continue working and being responsive to the needs of the organization. Now, remember the resources and the capabilities. Remember our discussion about resources and capabilities, and basically what happens. You're supposed to return the resource into capabilities. It's capabilities into competitive advantage. Competitive advantages into more value into growth. Because at the end of the day, we are looking at corporate growth and stability. For example, if you have superior CEO, then that means you have executive leadership skills. Superior CEO means he can steer the organization into good diversification strategies or partners, as compared to a CEO who is not superior. A CEO who is superior can see ahead, many years ahead to come, and prepare the firm or plan for the firm the future. That's why we have corporate strategy and so forth. If you have a good, outstanding board of directors, then you're talking about outstanding corporate governance. Now, corporate governance is very, very important again. You can do everything right, but if the governance is poor, the firm may not last long. You've seen firms, very big firms collapsing because of poor corporate governance practices. Experience of managers. If you have experienced managers who've been there for quite some time, then it means you have excellent management in place that can be able to, turn around the firm. So these are just examples of resources and how you can be able to, let me admit a few people here who are joining, admit all. Yes, that means that state-of-the-art machinery, then you have efficient production and service delivery. Superior locations, yes. Location is a good resource. What you call corner shop or corner plot or junction shop, that's good for business. Patents, trademark, these are soft copy of the resources and therefore they are equally important. So all these are different ways or different types of resources that we've seen. If you have a good cash flow, then it means you have the ability to manage and generate internal funds. You know, that means you're not going to borrow funds. When other firms are borrowing funds and paying interest, you are using your own funds or you are retaining earnings to be able to generate cash. So what they are paying as interest, you are receiving as interest, and that is a profit in your. These are the kind of resources we are talking about, and then turning them into capabilities, and then turning them into competitive advantage so that the firm can be able to perform well. Then state-of-the-art information system, of course, IT remains your superior technology development. Especially in this era, IT is very important in management of firms. If you have an extensive lineup of products and services, it's a portfolio. We talked about portfolio the other time. Then it means you are sorted, you are sorted. If you have a good total quality management, it means you are above the bar. Excellent reputation, good PR, and so forth. So these are examples of resources that are very, very important and that management must allocate well to different causes, whether they are financial, they are human, they are technological, whatever kind of resources they have. They are very, very important in managing the farm and making sure that the core competencies have been outlined. You can study much about the works of Penrose, the works of Hermel and Praland, very, very important in terms of deriving the competencies. And also Selznick, one of the key players in the introduction of strategic management, about, again, core competencies. How does the firm place itself in the industry and position itself better than the competitors. So there's a lot. Organizational structure, we talked about culture, organizational processes and routines. These are part of the technology, not technology, but the core competencies and the resources and capabilities that are very, very important. What we've been driving is this, that previously we've seen resources, and we've seen what are the resources. Now these resources derives capabilities. They are properly used and utilized. Now these capabilities, for example, technology is a capability, design, production, and so forth. Now these capabilities derive competitive advantage over the firm. One of the easiest ways of measuring competitive advantage is cost or differentiation or positioning. Now, that competitive advantage is the one that drives corporate growth at the end of the day. So continued capabilities bring value. I think value should be somewhere there in the competitive advantage. So continued sustainable competitive advantage over time, it leads to corporate growth. That is what almost every firm is looking for. So when you talk about resources, they are supported by all these scholars. I've just put a few there. When you talk about capabilities, Andrews, Offer, Pramalad, Hamel, Ulrich. When you talk about competitive advantage, of course, Porter, the works of Porter, very, very important in competitive advantage. That is derived from the use of the capabilities that are derived from the resources of the firm. So again, I said you can go through much about the works of these scholars. There's a lot. If you go into literature, you find a lot of interesting write-ups about these resources by these key players including Chandler, the works of Chandler, very, very important. So basically, what makes these resources key, you know, is because these resources have qualities that we talked about the other time, and which you can also talk today. We talked about heterogeneity, you know, heterogeneous, or the opposite of homogeneity, you know. We talked about resource immobility, right? Now, if the resources are heterogeneous, it means different farms have different resources. It's not easy to get one farm that has all the resources at hand. That's why we talk about partnerships, alliances, mergers, simply because the kind of resource a farm is looking for is owned by another farm. Therefore, to access that resource, then to access that bundle of resource that drives that competitive advantage, then farms must seek, must be in a continuous search for this kind of resource. And then immobility. Remember, these are the characteristics about resources, which are basically assumptions per se. Resource immobility means the resources may not be easily mobile. If they are highly mobile, then they lose their competitive advantage. If they are not heterogeneous, then there's no competitive advantage. Cost imitation, you know. If they're immobile, it means you cannot move them easily from one place to another. Therefore, it's not easy to imitate them. It's what we call cost imitability and inimitability. Cost imitability means that the resources cannot be imitated because of the cost of the resources. When you talk about imitability, it means they cannot be imitated physically, right, by the competitors, and therefore they continue being strategic resources. So the resources must be valuable. The resources must be rare. The resources must be inimitable. The resources must lack substitutes. It means they have no close substitutes, or they have no substitutes at all. That is what now makes the farm to continue enjoying the sustainable competitive advantage. And how do you test the resources to know that how are they and whether they qualify? You do what is called a VRIO analysis that has an impact on the performance. So when you're doing resource analysis, you pick a resource one after the other, then analyze it. See what is the point. That means it's not a competitive advantage to that farm. And what is the performance of the farm? It's below normal. It's underperformance because the resources that are there have no value. So it brings a competitive disadvantage. So if you had the whole of Sahara Desert, they don't have any value to any farm. Then you also need to check, are the resources rare? If the resources are not rare, then everybody has it. If every farm has a resource, then it's just normal. Just like water flowing in a river. Every person goes to fetch, every farm has access to the river, so that river may not derive any competitive advantage. Any farm may not derive that competitive advantage by going to the river, unless and until, you know, that resource is valuable and it's rare. Maybe if it's a seasonal river, when it's a dry spell, then that means water is rare, therefore it is a resource. But if it's just continuously flowing, it has no meaning. Are those resources inimitable? Can they be imitated? Right? If yes, then you cannot derive competitive advantage for a long time. But if no, then you are safe. You have temporary competitive advantage that can lead to temporary above normal performance. Same to, okay, we talked about difficult to imitate. We have a, they supported by business, by the organization. Maybe if they are supported by the business organization, yes or no. If no, then you may have sustainable competitive advantage. But that performance is just above the normal. But if yes, if the resource you are trying to analyze, you answer no for each of these. It's not, it's valuable, yes. It's valuable, no. It's rare, no. It's difficult, no. It's not supported by organization then. But if the answer is yes, if the resource is valuable, it is rare, it is difficult to imitate, it is supported by the organization, then you are doing well, you have sustainable competitive advantage, and your performance will be very, very high. And that is what now firms are looking for. Looking at resources that they are going to continue milking. Remember, we talked about cash cows in the BCG model. That is what resources should be. That resource that has sustainable competitive advantage makes the farm to have a sustainable performance that is above normal performance in the industry. Scholars have always said that when you're analyzing Coca-Cola, the Coke brand is a cash cow. I don't know, depend on how they analyze it. So that means if it's a cash cow, that's why it has been able to stay in the market for quite long. You don't invest much in it because it has a sustainable competitive advantage. You don't need to create any competitive advantage. It is already a competitive advantage. And then the performance of the farm becomes supernormal, what you may call above normal or abnormal performance, growth of the farm. So this other model, just to explain that, we have organizational resources, financial, human, we've seen all that. Are they valuable? Are they unique? You have to answer yes or no. Appropriate system in place, yes or no. No. Are we just taking advantage of that potential? Maybe yes or no. Are they difficult to imitate? Yes or no. Are they really available? Available for not really available substitute? Are they substitutable? Yes or no. So those different scenarios will give you different. Those points will give you different scenarios. For example, the first one, there is potential for competitive advantage. Are they valuable? Are they unique? Yes, that's potential, right? Are there appropriate systems in place to protect that? Then there is realized competitive advantage. But if now the systems have gone ahead and made it difficult to imitate, difficult to substitute, then you have sustainable or sustained competitive advantage. That is what firms are basically looking for. They are looking for strategic strength. You have the capability, the core competence. Is it valuable? Is it the same model down there? Is it unique? Yes. Then you have a strategic strength. If the answer is no, then you have no strategic strength. That means you have no competitive advantage. Lack of capability, right? You don't have a capability. Now, that lack of capability does not bring any core competence, cannot. But that core competence, in case it is it valuable? No. Is it unique? No or yes? Then it means you have a strategic weakness from the resources. Now, why are you looking at this? We are looking at this because we want to know what are resources? What are the resources and how can these resources derive competitive advantage? You know, because competitive advantage is derived from imitability, from durability, from appropriability, from lack of substitutability, from competitive superiority, lack of imitation, what we've been talking about there. That is what derives competitive advantage. Because that competitive advantage is the value we are looking for. That will derive, from the resources and therefore lead to superior farm performance. Okay, I think we saw this previously. This is a corporate goal we are talking about. After all that, we are looking at corporate growth. Maybe what are the practical implications of the resource-based theory in a resource allocation? The attractiveness of the industry must be based from resources, because the resources is what derives competitive advantage. If there are no resources, then you cannot say this industry is more attractive than the other. If you are going for growth, for example, you want to go for growth strategy, and you are looking for a partner, you must do resource analysis and see, and so forth. That's the genesis of it all. That's the genesis of it. But it cannot be sustainable until the farm makes it sustainable. Until the farm is able to beat everybody in the industry. So resource allocation should be properly managed and make sure that only the resources that are value, are immutable, are allocated to the competitive courses of action, so that then the continued competitive advantage can be realized, that can be able to lead into growth of the farm per se. Maybe what are the criticisms of the resource-based theory in allocation? This theory, capabilities are not purely static. That's what I was trying to explain there. Unless you work very hard as a farm, as a manager, as a department, that sustainable competitive advantage is not easily achievable and is not easily sustainable, because competitive advantage may not last forever. May not last, actually does not last forever. At times it goes down, just like a business cycle. At times you find the farm is enjoying a lot of competitive advantage. So it's a wave that goes up and down, depending on how the farm plays its business in the industry. Maybe I put your speaker just briefly, that you can have a small task there. Yeah? Hello there.
Hello.
Yes, are we together? Yes, a lot of noise there.
Yes.
Are we together? I put all your speakers on, that we can start a discussion. So I'm going to unmute them, all of them. I'll mute them myself. I'm going to mute all of them. Then you tell me, start discussion about competitive advantage. Now, maybe you can, excuse me. This one you should have done as a group, but let's do it. Just a few observations. Identify the key resources in your organization and subject them to VRIO test. And what is your conclusion? Now, as leaders, as managers, this is what you're supposed to do in practice now. Get a resource, test it, and see whether that resource will bring you competitive advantage. Now, resources that are not bringing enough competitive advantage, you minimize investing in them. In some places, we say that you liquidate them or you divest them. We're talking about a big piece of land. If you have a big piece of land, and this piece of land is not bringing you any value to the farm, unless you are prospecting, then this is what we are talking about. You can liquidate, you can sell, you can convert it and get resources that are more valuable to you. So maybe I can hear from you, please. Can you give us an example of a resource that you have in your organization, and you tell us how you think that resource is based on VRIO test? And I'm going back to the VRIO test here. That's a VRIO test. Okay. Let me see. This is to you now. Anyone who can talk about resource in your organization or in a farm you know. And then we want you to take it through the VRIO test so that we can make a decision about it. You can see Jerusalem is there, Samrat is there, Yared is there, Konj is there, Samuel is there, Shimeles is there, Bebe, Yob, Agos, Ripka, yes. Now, as we're just thinking about, this process of resource analysis, it shouldn't be a war. It's not war. When you find that you are struggling to analyze the resource, then you find there is a challenge somewhere. It's supposed to be just like the way we do SWOT analysis. I think those who are in class together last semester, we did a SWOT analysis. I'm sure you are very much, at your level, you are very much conversant with it. It should be free, not free flowing. If you are looking at valuable, you need to check. You have a car or you have a truck. How is it? Is that truck valuable? That's how easy it is. Yes or no? Is it easy to get it? Is it easy to imitate? Does it support organization or is supported by the organization? That's how you do the analysis to make it easy. So that
can I try?
Yes, who is that?
This is Konji. I'm working at a petrol company. The petrol is the resource is not easily found, and I believe it's their competitive advantage.
Yes. Go ahead.
Based on this VRIO, the resource is rare.
Yes, continue.
It's difficult to imitate. I think that's all.
Valuable. What is the maybe the monetary value? Because value maybe monetary.
Since it's rare, its cost is expensive.
Yeah. How much per liter? You said oil. You said oil?
It's
Yes, what
the
was your
cost
resource?
is expensive.
I didn't get the resource. What is the resource?
Petroleum.
Petroleum, yes. Petroleum is expensive. Yes. How much per liter you buy there? How many dollars?
Around
Okay, you are converting, isn't it?
$1.
$1? $100?
Around $2 per liter.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Then it's rare.
Yes,
That's
it's rare. It's not easy to find petroleum in the world.
Mhm. Then it is difficult to imitate.
Yes.
Does it have a substitute?
Pardon?
Does it have a substitute?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Does it?
Mhm.
The line is broken now.
Okay, so from your analysis, how is the competitive implication and what is the performance? Coach, are we together?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Okay, I'm asking, based on your analysis,
I have a network
what is the
difficulty.
competitive implication? Is it sustainable competitive advantage? Is it temporary? Is it just competitive parity? Or is it competitive disadvantage? From your analysis. I think we are losing you. We'll be back to you. I think Samuel, your hand is up.
I think it's sustainable, sustainable competitive advantage.
Sustainable competitive advantage, right? What about the performance of the farm? Okay.
Yes,
Let's go.
yes.
Yes. Okay, Samuel Arkebe. Samuel?
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, yeah. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. First, I think maybe I should give a little bit of a background of what we do to just tell you what our competitive advantage and the value we're giving. And you know, our company is a technology company, mainly involved in procurement solutions. Basically, what we do is like we combine both suppliers and vendors. So it's like a needed supply chain is combined through this technology. So at the beginning, some years back, like over 12 years actually, we were the leaders. We were the only ones. That was the competitive advantage. But due to our weakness, then we failed to stay competitive, or it was imitated. So, like 2 years back, the company is restructured or is reformed again. So we do have, you know, our major performance, or I would say, is a competitive advantage is technology, especially in the ICT. So this is the competitive advantage, I would say. I'll go through this impact, this VRIO. So I'll go through it. So technology, in terms of technology, we are ICT technology, where we use the coding of the system. So what is the difference between us and other competitors is like other competitor companies do what we call CMS. It's like a content management system. So they just take technology done by others, and they just like kind of manipulate it to fit the local need, and that's it. So they're not flexible. So what is different in us? All our systems are done in-house by ourselves. So is it of value? It is of value because I think so far in Ethiopia, we are the only company that does the system by ourselves. So whenever the suppliers or the vendors request manipulation of any system to suit their need, then we do that. Is it rare? Yes, it is rare because not so many companies are involved in such technology, bridging the gap between demand and supply. So is it difficult to imitate, especially right now? Yes. Why I say so is because even though the system started work or restructured was just 2 years old, especially with this case of COVID, we integrated the system itself, supply chain, and also e-commerce and payment systems. So it's difficult for others to imitate or to to come to the same level as us because I think we went ahead of them. Maybe even though we are 2 years old, being restructured, or even 1 year and a half, I think we've gone like 5 years ahead of the rest of them. So it takes years for them to come to the same level as us. Is it supported by organization? I think it means by the company, as I understood. So yes, it is, especially because this is the core value of our company. So it's supported by the whole management, by the owners, by employees who are dedicated. And also it's supported by those who use the system. I think it's supported by everybody, especially this case of this COVID, the event of COVID-19. It boosted the need of everybody staying at home or wherever they are to get products or services, to float their tenders or request for quotation online, and then to get their service online if it is possible, or at least to order online and then get the products by courier or some other services. So this is the value chain, or the impact of those resources on the performance of the company.
Right. So basically, what is the competitive implication?
Sorry?
What is the competitive implication?
The competitive implication.
Yes.
I think the implication of our product, right? So I think the implication, I would say, is like our company seems to be ahead of the rest of the competition. It's beating the competition, and our strategic thinking, which we did maybe a year back, is paying off because it showed us that we are on the right track. We didn't plan for COVID to appear, but it did. Maybe the one fact that that took us back or delayed everything was that there is no online payment system here in Ethiopia yet. I mean, there are payment systems, but then there were no policies or not even online billing regulations. But then now that the situation we are in the event of COVID, that people have to reduce the personal contacts using paper receipts and everything, I think the government is now putting on a rush that online invoices would be used. So there's a policy that supports exactly the right strategy we did. So the implication is like for the next years to come, maybe 5 or more years, we'll be staying ahead. Then if we keep this pace, I think we'll beat the competition in the market.
All right, that's good. That's a good analysis. So at the end of the day, what I was saying is that we are looking at every farm is looking at a competitive, sustainable, competitive advantage, sustainable, competitive offer, you may call it. That will lead to sustainable, above normal performance, right? Or what you may call super performance or abnormal performance in the farm. Abnormal in the positive side, not below normal, because even below normal is abnormal. Okay, right. I think there's somebody else who is also hand this up. Let me see. Shimless, I think your hand was up. I'm trying to get you. Shimless.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Before I mention just the analysis of our company, but I would like to ask Samuel one question.
Yes.
Okay.
Because Samuel's
everybody in the class.
The activity mentioned, yes, please.
Not just Samuel, but everybody in the class.
Okay.
Okay.
Why I said Samuel is, the question is based on the activity what he mentioned, his company, what they are doing. Samuel, what you said is, you are trying to, the competitive implication is just to bring sustainable competitive. I understand what you said. But do you think that the activity what you are mentioning now, is it difficult to imitate? Because it is technology. Maybe I'm afraid some company also may do the same what you are saying now. So do you think this is difficult to imitate? I want to answer from you.
Okay.
You understand what I said, Sami?
Yeah, definitely. Difficult to imitate, I think I would assess it in two ways. One is in the idea or ideology of the company space. There are things and business secrets that I cannot share here, which cannot be imitated. The way we do things definitely cannot be imitated. And technologically speaking, the back end, I mean, everything like now, I think there are about 5 companies or more that do not the same exactly, but similar things. There are 2 things that cannot be imitated. First of all, many of the companies that are using the similar system are doing the CMS, like I said. It's completely different than doing it from the scratch and doing the whole coding by your own. That's the first thing. So it cannot be imitated because exactly all the lines of codes we use will never be the same as or they cannot imitate the same line of code. That's one. And second, our back end or what we do at the back. The way we manage our customers, the way we handle things, the way we manage all the procurement processes, I don't think it would be the same, definitely. They might do something similar because as long as they don't see the system and what we do for the structure, yes, the front end or the operations would look the same, but it will never be the same, definitely. So I would say, yeah, it will look like it is an imitation, but it's not going to be the same. This is my answer.
Okay. That's good. Now, Shimless, you are comfortable?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I should accept whether I'm comfortable or not. Anyhow, let me come to my example. One of the company we are dealing with, the milk processing. In milk processing, our valuable resources location. Why it is very valuable and it is very rare? Because our location for milk as a to get raw milk and in weather in any situation, it is very rare to get in the other part of Ethiopia because there are different types, different locations for milk processing in Ethiopia, but the location where found our company is very special and rare to get because it is very cold area and there is many availability for raw milk. So we have very valuable location as a resource and it is very rare. When you talk about for imitation, it is very difficult to imitate our location because the place where there is, it is very cold. It is good for cow, for milk cow, and it's good for milk processing. So it's very difficult to imitate because some places very hot in weather condition, but it is good. Supporting by organization, we do have good management team, staffs, even we have the board members. So it is supported by well-organized and board directors, owned by managements and by staffs. Our competitive implication is not just for temporary, it is for sustainable competitive advantage. And when you come to the performance, we are trying to gain our profit and our performance above the exam. I don't know whether Sami or the others, if you have any question, you are welcome.
Okay, okay, that was a good explanation. Now, now Shibla, still on the question that you asked about how sustainable it is, right? Now, sustainable competitive advantage. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Yes, yes. Now, as you said there, one of the disadvantages of this idea of an analysis of resources and when it comes to competitive, sustainable competitive advantage, you know, other firms are outside there are still looking at what you are doing, right? They are watching. If they find that you have sustainable competitive advantage offer and you have a sustainable super profits, they'll try to come in. And that's the rationale of every business, every company. Where you see there is an investment and it is paying, that's where you put your money, right? So it is now the duty of the organization in the business to make sure that this sustainable competitive advantage is maintained, right? Through research, development, innovation. You know, like now you're talking about IT, Samuel. By the time the competitors come to learn much about your IT, maybe you've moved out of that. You are doing something ahead of them. So even if they try to, you know, to copy that and try to bring into the market, it will be already late. You know, you get it? Like the case I was explaining for Microsoft. They say that they're always doing research and design. They're always bringing new things. By the time a competitor is able to see this is good and how can we do it, by the time they reach there, you hear Microsoft has launched another product. So where does that leave the competitor? It's left far, far away. That's what we're talking about, 10 years or whatever. The same case with Google. The other time we talked about Google. A lot of innovation, research and design, you know, and then locking the system. If it was tangible resources like mineral, like milk, you know, you can patent. We've seen farms patenting land masses with the like cement manufacturing farms. They get the whole block and then they patent. Nobody else can come there. Konji was talking about oil, petroleum. You get the oil fields and then you patent them, right? Nobody else can come and mine them. And that's how the farm can continue, you know, gaining that competitive advantage that goes to competitive offer, and then it can continue to bring supernormal performance in the farm. I think that was a good analysis. I'm now comfortable that you understood very well what we were talking about. maybe what are the limitations of resource allocation in practice? I think this, you can discuss it on your own later, but of course, politics in the organization, you may want to do this activity, allocate resources in a particular activity. There's some part of the management, they don't want that, or part of the board do not want that. They don't think it is valuable. You know, challenges in every organization is there. It's not start today. It's always there. That's why we talk about stakeholder analysis and stakeholder analysis and engagement. Because if part of the management thinks this is a good deal, the other management thinks it's not. Now, you cannot implement until you buy them in. So that now brings wisdom of the management and the directors to be able to come together and try to convince the others that these are worthy cause, you know, so that we can be able to invest in this particular project, and it's going to bring better returns, the performance that we are talking about. Any question? Any question about that? Any question? Any question, please, about that? Let me see if there is any on the chat. Okay, welcome all. Okay, let's start. 6 out of 10 available. Yes, we already started. Okay, I didn't get this. Interrupt once, please. Something distracting the screen. Okay, I didn't get this. Sorry. Then, yeah, I think those are the. Any question about resource allocation, resource analysis?
May I?
Yes.
Maybe it's not a question, but something to add on what you mentioned. Maybe it's a kind of something I would like to share to everybody else. I think you mentioned a key, and maybe that's something also I want to share to Shimers and others as well, because he asked a certain question. Whenever we do things the way we plan to do, or in a very unique way, and especially when our performance above the normal, which I would say is one of the cases we're facing, I think competitors would like to follow. I think it's always best to be a leader than the follower in an industry. And second, I think something you mentioned, I think I will also like to emphasize and we should be watchful about is like always we have to see our competitors and the way things are doing, I mean, things are happening. Because to always stay ahead of them, we have to be creative the way we do things. The case for us is always to be creative, to add value every time, to update any software, for instance. So I think the key is to always compete with yourself. That's what we do always, because definitely we do competitors analysis every time, because unless we do the study, we study the competitive environment, we cannot stay ahead. So I think studying the competition in the industry is key. And second, to be always a leader is a key. A third, probably what is best to be in an industry is to always be a leader and to compete with your own self. Like the case I'm sure is with the rest of the yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think I've answered. I think all the question in the chat are answered. So maybe we can go to something else different, just briefly, and we can wind. Let me see what we can do here. I'm trying to share my screen with you.
በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ ኤምቢኤ በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ ኤምቢኤ በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ ኤምቢኤ በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ ኤምቢኤ በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ ኤምኤስሲ በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
So let us briefly go to the issue of corporate growth. Because what we've been driving all through is corporate, is performance. That if you do everything right, then you expect to get spin-off profit or to perform well. Now, maybe what is growth? Maybe if we are to define what is growth, there are so many definitions of growth in an organization. But anything whereby there is multiplication, there is increase. In number of customers, in number of branches, in profitability, in capital base, in asset base, wherever. All these are dimensions that can be able to explain corporate growth. If you're having very many customers in your farm increasing, that means you are doing well. If you are producing more milk, shimulus, you are producing more milk, then it means you are doing well. And that is what every farm is looking for. Although profitability becomes one of the overriding goals of, any business enterprise, but still there are other goals of performance that are equally important. So maybe anything that has to do with increase in revenue, increase in sales, increase in company value, the shares and profits, shares and stock, increase in profits, number of employees, number of customers, number of branches, number of portfolio. That is what you call what? Corporate growth. Okay, let me address an issue here of, I think the network is going slow. Okay, so I was explaining what is performance. I think network is okay now. Okay, so all these are ways of trying to, to make the corporate grow, whichever way you look at it. Either many of these or few of these, depending on the objectives of the firm. If it is a non-government organization, they may not talk about profits, but that does not mean they don't grow. If it is a profit-making organization, profit may be an overriding goal, right? If it is a charity organization or welfare organization, they are concerned about the welfare of the people, the welfare of the employees, like that. If it is a merchandising organization, they are concerned about increasing the number of customers and so forth. So that is basically how you can be able to define what is growth. But why growth? Why is it important? Why should you look for strategies, implement strategies, looking for growth? Why is it important? Firms that are big in the industry, they have cemented their position in the market. They become market leaders. The size, maybe you can call it market share. Maybe market share is 50%. That becomes a big firm that can set prices, that can set quality, then it becomes a leader. And that's what most firms are looking for, you know. It can be in terms of profitability. A firm wants to increase its profitability. Of course, with profitability, a lot is in it. It can expand into different businesses. It can diversify, you know. It can lead to wealth maximization for the shareholders. And if it's not well, they can also lead to high dividend payout. Big firms tend to pay big dividends as compared to small firms. So every firm wants to grow to maximize its capacity. Maybe for survival, a farm wants to grow to survive. Maybe competition is very stiff. It sees that if it doesn't grow and have a big muscle, it's not going to last long. So it has to grow for survival purposes. And all these are all reasons why growth is important. Maybe to acquire more assets, attract new talent, those are your employees, you know, get more profitability. I think you've talked about that. Increase market share, be the best in the industry, competitive advantage. And all this, you know, lower costs, of course, through economies of scale, greater market dominance, we've seen that. Greater bargaining power, we saw that the other week. If two firms combine, then they have a bigger bargaining power. Remember the circles we are talking about. And all that, you know, firms want to mitigate against commercial risks, you know, that is risk taking and spreading the risks and so forth. All that, reduce competition and all that. Those are reasons that why firms should be able to grow, or firms seek growth in the industry. Maybe what are some of the types of business growth that firms go for? Is what we call organic growth. That is just normal growth, focusing on product and services, space of business success and so forth. That is on the lower side of growth, especially small firms. Then we have what we call strategic growth. This is a long-term growth of a firm, especially now when you implement corporate strategy. This is the kind of growth you are looking at. You are looking at growth for the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. That's corporate growth. Now, sometimes corporate growth is funded by the organic growth, hoping that the firm is not going to look for funds anywhere else, but using retained earnings from the firm. So that becomes an advantage of one growth to support the other type of growth. Then we may have what we call mergers and partnership kind of growth. We also saw this diversification, integration, you know, very, very important, especially in the corporate level, whereby you acquire, you merge, you get partners, you form strategic alliances. Then out of that, you know, you can be able to venture into new markets, into new products, you know, and through that you continue being valuable and, you know, have a role in the market. And then there's what we call also internal growth, a little bit related to organic growth that we saw. Okay, that is trying to grow within the firm. Look at internal resources and see how best they can be used to do better. Efficiency and effectiveness, you know, within the system. Like Samuel was talking about, making the system inside, coming up with an internal system that maybe not everybody else has to be able to manage the operations of the farm. You're trying to maximize resource allocation and resource use without necessarily, you know, investing a lot of capital. That is what is called internal growth. As compared to external growth, most external growth are highly capitalized. For example, if you are to go for diversification, that means you have to look for money to fund those. If you're going to for joint ventures, then it means you have to look for money and or ideas and then fund together. But when you talk about internal growth, you are growing within the system. You are making the resources more efficient. You are allocating less resources for the same cost of work or the higher cost of work that was done. In production, those who are like, I think those who are in production, physical production or whatever, it's called bottlenecking. Another is bottlenecking. Making the resources more efficient, removing any blocks within the production systems, procedures that are not important, that consume resources, and then remaining with only the key activities And therefore, you tend to use less resource and produce more. So those are examples of growth that are very common in organizations. But all this goes through the organizational life cycle. Just like the way we talked about the product life cycle, brand life cycle, people life cycle, organizations also grow through the life cycle, you know. So the life cycle shows from the time the farm is initiated up to the time the farm may exit the market. And this is what we are talking about. I hope you can be able to see this diagram here. Now it starts with a courtship. This is organizational or corporate life cycle, if you like. It's almost similar to the product life cycle or the brand life cycle. The idea is the same, just the life cycle of a person. It starts with a courtship. Courtship is, entrepreneurs will tell you, that's ideas in the mind. Courtship is the entrepreneur, the person starting the business, courts the idea, courts the business. Maybe you want to start transport business. Then you are thinking in your mind, the idea is still in your mind, you are courting yourself. Now that courtship can lead to two things, either just an affair and it's over, or it can lead to infancy stage. If it's an affair, it means it does not brush with the reality. Maybe you want to start a transport business or passenger business, but there is lockdown, people are not moving. That means no business, that idea may not survive. Maybe you want to start a new airline industry today, but this movement has been curtailed because of COVID and so forth. So that idea may not go far. That means it may die. If it survives, it goes to the infancy stage. Now, what is important to note here is that between courtship and infancy, there's a lot of turbulence. We talked about change, business change, turbulence change. The change there, you can see the curve there is very sharp. That means it's not as easy, it's bumpy, you know. That idea into infancy stage is very, very tough. Now, research shows that a number of projects, a number of businesses die in this stage. Actually, over 70% die in this stage, if not the first one. Maybe up to the infancy, 70% are gone. You know, you may lack capital. You may have a very good idea, you don't have capital, you can't get the capital. You know, you might have an idea, but the idea is not applicable, it's not practical. You know, Shimulets may be planning, instead of carrying the milk in trucks, you have a piped milk system from wherever he has a factory to Addis. But what will be the cost of that? Right? As compared, what that investment, how much will it cost? As compared to transporting. Even oil pipelines are not working efficiently. So if oil pipelines may not be working efficiently, you find that milk pipelines may not work. So if you have that kind of idea to pump the milk using a pump station, then drop it to Addis, it may die at that stage. And then from there, we go to what is called go-go. Go-go is in the middle of adolescence and infancy, you know. Now, this whereby, you know, systems have started working. The farm is catching up, you know. There's a lot of family and close friendship management. One of the challenges here is what you call the founder or family trap. The owner of the idea does not want to be advised or is not opening up to other people. So it becomes his own idea that is not being shared. Now, in the absence of the owner, it means that idea cannot go on. If the family does not support, maybe he was expecting a lot of support from the family in terms of financing, in terms of other support, then that idea will die there. That business will die there. That will be the end of the life cycle. And then very bottom, the next shaky place is between the go-go and the business, and the adolescence. Very critical stage there. But if the farm goes past this, then the farm is more likely to stay in the market. Then from there you go to prime. Some scholars talk there is early prime, there is late prime. Now the farm is going up. Now what you need to is to link this to the product life cycle, because the farm is a product. Remember the definition of a product. Any item, any person, any idea, personality, land, property that has been offered into the market either for attention, for sale, or whatever it is, so to meet customer needs. So the same happens here. Now, what we've not mentioned very much is within all these steps, there are a lot of characteristics that takes place. This farm a lot of characteristics. For example, courtship, no sales, but money is being spent, negative profits. As you move on, infancy, little sales, right? You cannot. That works. That's why you find it so bumpy. You know, if you are not generating the money and you are spending the money, you are paying rent, you are paying staff, you are paying this, you're paying bills, but the business is not generating. That's why it's a little bit tricky. That's why we talked about the capital. If you don't have the capital, then you don't have the capital to pay these bills, and this business may crash there. So, okay, I was explaining adolescence, and from there you go to prime. We have early prime and prime. And then from there we have stable or stability. Now at this stage, you find that now things are okay. Things are okay. Oh, things are okay. Sales are very high and they are peaking, right? They are peaking. The sales are very, very high. And this is now the dream of every owner of a business. There are many other issues, again, we've not talked about. We've not talked about the costs. And you know how the cost curves behave, you know, fixed cost, you know, variable cost, you know, the total cost, you know, marginal cost, how they behave in such a business. But at just after adolescence, as you go to prime, now you find that the farm is making profits. It's breaking even, right? The revenues are more than the costs until it peaks. At peak there, you find the revenues are on the top, the sales are on the top, so the profits are on the top. But after that now, competitive advantage now becomes, starts becoming elusive. More competitors come in, and when competitors come in, they start sharing your market with you. What that means is that your sales start declining. You've not checked, this goes to aristocracy. The firm is so big, but it has challenges of administration and takeover. This is where now takeover happens. Now, those people planning for mergers, takeovers, and whatever, they are called carnivorous eyes or hawk-eyed managers. They are always looking for firms that are at that stage so that they can grab them before they are almost finished, you know. Because if you grab a firm at that stage, it still has value, especially if you buy it at a throwaway price, you know, you get the value yourself. Then from there you go to early bureaucracy. The entrepreneurs may be forced out. You know, you may sell the business, but the business is still operating. Then we have late bureaucracy or bureaucracy. This whereby now a lot of rules, a lot of just like what is bureaucracy, and then it can lead to death. That means exit from the system. But of course, the other time we talked about turnaround management. When the farm starts going down, turnaround managers can come in and turn around that farm and reinvent the farm as if it is starting at courtship, and that business continues and continues and continues. The other scenario is when the farm is stable. We talked about stability strategies. You don't wait for the farm to go down, right? When it is at the peak, you employ strategies that are going to maintain that product in that portfolio, in that market. Because one of the biggest issues is the market share. If the market share is maintained, then it means the farm will continue performing well, but still within that margin. And you know, as long as the farm is making profits, it can last forever in the system. Actually, we say that in theory. If a farm is making zero profits, it can stay forever. In practice, it's a little bit hard because of the business waves and cycles. But in theory, as long as the business is making zero profits, it can continue operating forever without any closure. But in practice, the small challenges happen. So that is that is the corporate life cycle, which is also close to this. I think this is more clear. You can look at it. Maybe now the role of the management in this stage is to make sure that what we call PI, there is performance. The farm is performing, right? There are sales, there is service, you get the results, right? Without sales, the farm will not survive. There is proper administration. That's what we talked about, human resources. You must have the right people in the board, the management, everywhere, including the employees. There is order, there's enforcement. If you fail in administration, then the farm will not do well, especially after stability. It needs a lot of experienced managers to steer that organization. And then there is also needs a lot of entrepreneurship. It talks about research and design, looking for new ventures and continuing, maintaining the competitive advantage. You cannot maintain that unless you have things to offer, new things, innovation and creativity. And then you must have a good culture. Culture is also a resource. You must have a good culture that you can be able to pass through the employees, and therefore through that, the farm can continue to be stable if you have decided it to be stable. Otherwise, you can still grow it when it is at the stability stage. Then it moves to the next level. I think these are explanation of that. I don't need to talk much about this. Go this adolescence conflict. There's a lot of conflict. It's a lot of premature aging, confusing, and so forth. This prime, late prime, stability very important. Autocracy. Then you also have bureaucracy. Then death. Death means exit. So unless the organization is reinvented again to cheat the organizational life cycle, it's going to exit from the system. So those funds that are reinvented back into the system are what we say they cheat the organizational life cycle. When you expect them to go and die, they are reinvented back to the system. Now, one of the biggest products in the world that has been cheating the life cycle is the bicycle. Just a normal bicycle that people use. It was invented so many years ago. Go and read the story of the bicycle. Every time you think that the bicycle is going out of the market, it comes back better. Maybe in a sports way, in a more versatile way, in a more, way of carrying luggage and so forth, and so many things, Now, this is also another illustration that explains what we are talking about. When it's courtship, it's customer, it's management, it's capital, it's organization, it's labor. At infancy, you must talk to the customers. All the other things are not important. The most important person is the customer, because you are introducing products into the market. When you're introducing products into the market, customer is the most important thing. Everything must be towards the customer. If the customer says yes, then you are done. If the customer says no, even if it is a high quality product, according to you, it is a grade 1 product, it's not going to go anywhere, it's going to die. That's why you find a very, very good products not making it. Very, very good organizations not making it into the system. And so forth. As you go, then customer management, and then the organization. At prime, customer very important, but the management, how the organization is being led, the capital, the employees. Employees can crush an organization. They are called the internal customers. Attitudes of the employees, especially towards customers, can completely kill an organization. As it becomes stable, then, when the farm is stable, this is more of a cash cow. You don't check so much on the customer. Now the management start glorifying themselves about their successes and so forth. These are times when management are in meetings and a lot of allowances, especially if they are still the owners and so forth. But you find that at this stage, the capital consumption reduces because the farm now is unstable. You are not investing more, right? You're not investing more because the farm is stable. As it goes on at aristocracy, then you find now it has started tripping. And when it has started tripping, what is next? You have to look at a way to do it. You must reinvent that farm. Reinventing that farm, turning around that farm is an investment. It's a big investment. Maybe it was a plant and machinery. You need to buy another plant and machinery. That's why you find capital there is consuming a lot of money. If it is the milk processing plant, now the plant has outlived its lifespan. The plant itself, that's the plant and machinery, not the whole organization. So that means now for you to produce quality milk, you have to get another plant and machinery. Then after that, it goes to politics, which is bureaucracy now. Now, of course, they will not talk much about politics. After that is death. The organization exits the system. But of course, we said, if you have the right management there, you can reinvent that organization and play it back into the system. And then it starts again at courtship and the business continues. But of course, if you have good management at aristocracy, at stability, you can maintain that farm so that the curve is stable. It continues being stable in the market, depending on the management of that organization. Maybe differences between growing an organization or aging. I think this not very much important. There's a difference between growing and aging. Again, very, very important thing is the effect of management and the effect of control of the organization. Let me remove this here. You can see well. Okay, that it is. Now, as the farm grows, flexibility and controllability is very important. When the farm is growing, it is young, as it is going to prime, controlling is easy, right? But as farm grows, going to aging, flexibility is easy. But as it goes to the final stage, you find controlling becomes hard. Controlling big organizations that have been there for a period of time, of course, because of politics, because of culture, because of controlling them becomes hard. Their flexibility also diminishes. At the beginning here, if you start a farm today, within 1 year, you can even completely overhaul the whole farm. Maybe you started with, now you are dealing with logistics, but you find the logistics are not working the way you thought. Maybe you are sourcing your goods from US, but you get a better market, which is China. That means you have to change your business model. That can easily happen within the early stages of growth. But once the farm is big changes may not be that easy to make because of the structures and other issues that are in that organization. So that was just a brief about, okay. Any question, please? Any question? Any question? Okay. I think today we had a long discussion, so we took long. But it's all right. No problem with that. Any question? Any question as I check the chat, please? Any question? Any question? Yes, Samuel. Samuel. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I was looking at the graph from the aging, from the courtship and also the way products or even companies start and then maybe also fail along the way, they continue to grow until they might even decline. Yeah, previous one.
I'm going there. Continue.
Okay. Then, yeah, I had in mind
You're not
a
very
couple of
clear.
companies.
You're not very
Yeah,
clear.
this one.
You're
Yeah, this one. So I
right.
had a couple of companies. Okay, I had a couple of companies in my mind. How one, I think I think you mentioned one started from the Fortune and so up. Then before even it passed through the GoGo,
Samuel, sorry, I'm not getting you. Your speaker seems to be unstable. I'm not getting you well.
Okay. Okay, then.
I'm not getting you well. There seems to be some background.
I'll take.
Another question, please. Another participant wants to make an inquiry or question, please. As Samuel makes his speaker well. No question? No hands up. Yes, I can see no hands up, please. No question. Samuel, are you back? Are you okay? You speak okay? Maybe you can. Samuel, are you back? Is your speak okay? Yes. Are you back? Yeah. Try again.
Try. My connection.
Okay, another question, please. Samuel thought his speaker. I think it's not very clear. Then I was looking at the chat. I don't think there's any question on the chat. Okay, there's one coming. All right, I get it. Now, can I put your speakers on just to wake those who are asleep? I know there are some who may be asleep. Another question, please. Another question. Okay, maybe if there is no question, then I think Samuel, are you okay? You speak okay now? Can you try?
I think still good.
Oh, another question, please. There's heavy rain there, I guess. There's a lot of rain there. When your speaker is on. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, can you put your question across?
No, not this time. I don't have any question. It's clear.
All right.
But Samuel, I think Samuel texts something.
No, I think Samuel is saying there is a lot of rain there. And therefore.
Can you hear me now?
So there's something in short is there. In short, do you have any time lapse or range in years, months between stages? Last tomorrow. Normally, this Samuel, this is your question? You've typed, isn't it? This Samuel Arkabe. Yes, Samuel, yes, I get your question. I get your question now. He's asking between one stage and the other. is there any time lapse, any specific time? No, there is no specific time that you can say this farm is going to take. It depends with so many factors that we've talked about: the environment, how the product has been positioned. That's why we said, if you look at the diagram, some products will just die before they are introduced into the market. That's at the beginning. Others will take long. So if you start 2 farms today, they'll go through a different life, depending on what they face in the market, right? The other time we were talking about construction, the dairy cow, I think the other week. Now, these 2 businesses have different lifespan. Because what is the lifespan of a house? 100 years, maybe, or even more. You build a good house, it can last 100 years. You have houses more, almost 200 years, and people are still buying. But what about a car? What about the business? You know, it may not last like a house, right? We are doing merchandise, for example, buying, small shop. You may graduate to a supermarket within a short time, or there are shops that within 5 years, 10 years, they graduate, become a big superstore. The other traders who have been in the business of retail trade for 30 years, for 40 years, the same person, until they retire out of that small business. So there's no guarantee this business is going to last this long. It is the role of the management. It is the role of the management to make sure that these businesses are sustainable, right? So there is no timeline between that. It depends. If competition is very stiff, then farms will not have sustainable advantage for long. But if they go into business that is not easily imitatable, then they can stay for long in the business. One very important other factor is the customer taste and preferences. If customer tastes change very fast, like cloth, the design industry is very volatile, right? Maybe a design comes after 1 year, it is over, right? So that means a person who is involved in designing must be very, very versatile also, so that he changes very fast. Because the design for this year will be different from the design for the next year. So if that farm does not have a good research and work with the market, then that farm is not going to last. But if they do that, then you find fitters who've been there for years and so forth. I think time is moving up, and I need to know any question before we wind up this class, please. We can continue tomorrow to be taken white time. Any question? I think we can continue tomorrow. Okay. There is one.
Yes.